Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really crucial blueprint for cybersecurity, the NIST Secure Software Development Framework, or SSDF for short. This is all about changing the very way we build the software we all depend on, every single day.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the big problem that the SSDF was designed to fix. Then we'll get into the framework itself, walk through its four main parts, and finish up with why this whole thing is a much bigger deal than you might think, for all of us. Okay, let's dive right in. To really get why the SSDF is such a game changer, you first have to understand the old way of doing things, and why it's a fundamental and frankly, very expensive problem.
So, this quote from NIST really gets to the heart of it. The idea is simple, but it's totally revolutionary. For decades, security was treated like a fresh coat of paint you slap on right at the end. It was an afterthought. The problem is, that's way too late. This idea of shifting left just means moving security from the very end of the process to the very beginning.
And yeah, this house analogy, it absolutely nails it. You have to design the foundation into the blueprint from day one. Trying to jam a foundation underneath a finished house is not only crazy expensive, but the whole structure is just never going to be as solid.
Right, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's easy to say build security in from the start, but how do you actually pull that off? Consistently across huge teams at all sorts of different technologies. Well, that is the exact problem the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, set out to solve. All right, so that's the problem. Let's talk about the solution and how NIST built it into a structured, actionable framework that pretty much any organization can use.
And here it is. The key thing to understand about the SSDF is that it's not some rigid, one-size-fits-all rulebook. It's more like a universal set of best practices, a common language for security that's flexible enough to plug into any kind of development process, whether you're a giant tech company or a tiny startup.
And this is what makes it so dang useful. To make this huge, complex challenge manageable, NIST broke the whole thing down into four fundamental pillars. This structure gives everyone a clear, logical roadmap to follow.
So these four groups cover the entire life cycle. You start by preparing the organization, getting your people, tools, and processes ready. Then you protect the software itself, the actual code. After that, you produce well-secured software, which is all about the building and testing. And finally, respond to vulnerabilities, because let's be real, nothing's perfect. So you need a plan for when things go wrong.
Let's dig into that first and most foundational group, prepare the organization. Seriously, this is all about getting the groundwork right before anyone even thinks about writing a single line of code.
This is where the real work begins. First, you define the rules of the road, so everyone knows what's expected. Then, and this is huge, you make sure everybody on the team understands their security role. It has to be part of the culture. The framework also pushes for using automated tools to check the code constantly. And maybe most importantly, you have to lock down the development environments themselves. I mean, if your workshop isn't secure, how can you expect the product to be?
Okay, so the organization is ready. The team is trained. Now, the focus shifts to protecting the actual digital asset, the code. This is all about making sure the software is safe from the moment it's created.
This is so critical, especially with all the software supply chain attacks we hear about. The framework really emphasizes stuff like code signing. You can think of it like a digital, tamper-proof seal. It uses some pretty heavy-duty math to prove two really important things. One, who the software actually came from, and two, that nobody has messed with it on its way to you.
And now we get to the real engine room of the whole process. NIST groups these last two pillars together because they're not just steps in a line. They're a continuous cycle of building proactively and fixing reactively. It's a loop.
This table lays it out perfectly. On one side, you have producing, which is all about being proactive. That means doing things like threat modeling, where you literally try to think like a hacker to find weak spots before you build and using tons of automated testing. Then on the other side, you have responding, which is about being smart and reactive. It means having a solid plan to find, analyze, patch, and most importantly, learn from any flaws that pop up after release.
So I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds super technical. Who is this framework really for, and why should the rest of us who just, use the software actually care?
Well, the SSDF creates a common language for two huge groups. You've got the producers, that's anyone making software, but just as important, it's for the acquirers. That's any company or government agency buying software. It gives them a standard set of questions to ask like, hey, how did you build this thing?
and a way to actually understand the answer. And that is the real magic of this whole thing. By giving both the builders and the buyers a shared, verifiable checklist for what secure looks like, the SSDF raises the security bar for the entire industry. When customers start demanding software that's built this way, producers have no choice but to step up. It makes the entire digital world safer for everyone.
So at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. Every single piece of software we use needs a secure foundation. The NIST SSDF is the blueprint for building exactly that. And it leaves us with a really important question we should all be asking about the technology we rely on every single day.